Welcome to our double angle formulas part 2 video. Let's take a look at our example. Use a double angle formula to evaluate the expression below, cosine of 5 pi over 3. Let's go ahead and select the double angle formula that we will be using. Since we're dealing with cosine, let's go ahead and select the formula involving cosine. Now notice that here this formula has an input of 2 theta, so we are going to match this 5 pi over 3 with the 2 theta. So let's start the formalization of the solution. Let 2 theta be equal to 5 pi over 3. That is because we matched both inputs. Now the next thing we're going to do is to solve for theta. So we have 2 theta is equal to 5 pi over 3. Let's go ahead and divide by 2 on both sides of the equation. So this implies that theta is equal to 5 pi over 6. Now, we can say that cosine of 5 pi over 3 simply becomes then the following. That is equal to cosine square of theta. So we have cosine square of theta, which happens to be 5 pi over 6, minus sine square of theta. So sine square of theta, which happens to be 5 pi over 6. Now keep in mind that cosine square means cosine times cosine. So we can rewrite this as follows. This is cosine of 5 pi over 3 is equal to cosine of 5 pi over 6 times cosine of 5 pi over 6 minus sine of 5 pi over 6 times sine of 5 pi over 6. Now let's go ahead and evaluate the right hand side expression here by looking at the unit circle. Recall that cosine is associated with the x-coordinate corresponding to this particular angle. So looking for 5 pi over 6, we get that the x-coordinate happens to be negative square root of 3 over 2. So cosine is negative square root of 3 over 2. So we can say that this is equal to negative square root of 3 over 2 times negative square root of 3 over 2 minus sine of 5 pi over 6 times sine of 5 pi over 6, which is associated with your y-coordinate. So the y-coordinate at this particular angle happens to be 1/2. So we have 1/2 times 1/2. Now negative times a negative becomes a positive, and square root of 3 times square root of 3 becomes a square root of 9. All over 2 times 2, which is 4, minus 1 times 1, which is 1, over 2 times 2, which is 4. But the square root of 9 happens to be 3. So we have 3 over 4 minus 1 over 4. And 3/4 minus 1/4 becomes 2/4, which simplifies to 1/2 after you divide both numerator and denominator by 2. Therefore, we can say that cosine of 5 pi over 3 is equal to 1/2. And ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this particular video on double angle formulas part 2. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.